These are red Pontiac potatoes, and they're ready to harvest. As you can see, they're dying back. They're looking kind of scorched, and they didn't even bloom. So bloom is not an indication of when potatoes are ready. The way you know is the potato plants are just finished. You can just tell they're not going to make any more green, and they're finished. So there's that. The potatoes are ready. We'll dig in here and see if there's any. Yep, there's potatoes. There they are, all in here. Got a whole bunch of potatoes in this row, and these three. And the sweet potatoes are far along. They've got quite a ways to go. I keep them in the ground until fall. And the eggplants, not doing so well, but they're catching on. They don't like cold weather. And here's the peppers. The peppers are the very long Corbaci peppers. They're from Turkey. And then here are the little purple jalapeno peppers. I grew them from seeds in a little seedling tray, and I used regular old dirt from the garden. And here are malanga plants. These are all malanga plants. And the watermelons aren't doing too good because I planted them way too early. I learned a lesson about watermelons. You want to make sure the soil is constantly above 70 degrees when you plant them. So your days need to get into the 80s pretty good before you can plant successfully with watermelons. Otherwise, the seeds will just rot in the soil. So now, even though it's June, the middle of June, I'm going to replant some more watermelons. And when I finish these potatoes, I'm going to plant watermelons there. The only thing that's really easy to grow, that you never should have any trouble with, in my opinion, is yellow crookneck squash. It seems that it just grows no matter what. I can plant it next to a stump. As long as it's got sunlight, it grows beautiful squash. I save the seeds every year from this yellow crookneck. It produces more squash than we can eat. Thing is, I don't really like squash very much. It's kind of rubbery, and it only tastes good when it's greasy. Anyway, here's the tomatoes I grew from regular dirt and seedlings from seeds. I grew my own seedlings, and they're already starting to produce a few tomatoes. See, here's the flowers, and there's a tomato. And I tied them up to this cattle panel. Makes it easy. And there's some tomatoes, and there's how I tied it up to the cattle panel. Here's some more tomatoes. The tomatoes are doing pretty good. But in a few days, I've got to harvest those potatoes. That's going to be a little bit, because I just got done trying to harvest garlic, and I'm still not finished with that. I learned something about garlic. When people tell me that I should cut the scapes off of them and I'll get a bigger garlic, I find it not to be true. See, the scapes are very necessary for bumblebees and pollinating insects. They really like them. And I cut off the scapes on hundreds of them and harvested, and they're not any bigger than if I'd left the flowers on. So next year I'm not going to cut the scapes off unless I want to eat a few scapes, because why deny all these bumblebees pollen and nectar that they need, and plus the garlic's probably good for them like it is us. So I'm not going to cut the scapes off of it. And this is elephant garlic. But you see, there's so many bumblebees. I really don't want to hurt the bumblebees putting the pollinators. So I've done this experiment, and my experimental project proved to me that cutting the scapes off makes no difference. It's obviously not good for the plant, and no, it doesn't seem to make the plant think, oh no, I've been deheaded, I must work on my bulb. If anything, it makes the plant say, hey, I'm injured, I better just stop growing right now. Anyway, the garlic stops growing right about now anyway, after it blooms, and goes to sleep for the rest of the year, and doesn't wake up until it gets really cold. And I don't bother growing it in my garden. I grow it out in the pasture. See, if you look out here, I've got garlic all in the pasture. Just flowers all over the place. See, here's some garlic that I cut the tops off of. What a shame. What a waste. What a useless waste.